Hello, today we'll be talking about learning assessments. Okay, a brief overview about what we're talking about today are number one, learning assessments according to our readings this week. Two, digital applications that are available to assess our learners. And three, a real world scenario. So, we have three basic questions that we talk about when we are building a assessment. Number one, what kinds of evidence do we need to find the hallmarks of our goals, including that of understanding? Okay, so what evidence are we looking for to assess that we have achieved our goals? Number two, what specific characteristics in student responses, products, performances should we examine to determine the extent to which the desired results are achieved? So the way I interpret this is, so how high or what are our standards are we going to do? Are they eight? Do we want our students to perform at 80%? Okay. Uh, how well or how far detailed do we want our students' responses to be? In a writing assignment may be a good example. Okay, three, does the proposed evidence enable us to infer a student's knowledge, skill, or understanding? A best way of saying is this validity. Okay, many of us have had a rubric given to us for an assignment saying these are our expectations for this assignment. Okay, to understand. Okay, do they 100% understand this content? Do they maybe 75? And so on. So these are the expectations to know, is this a sign? Do they truly understand this? Okay, next, the evidence of assessments. So we have four different ways of evidence. Performance task, which, okay, I love performance task. So experiential learning is a good way of explaining this. Okay, application. So many of us took a chemistry class in high school. Okay, maybe lab-based learning is a great way. All right, we learned the content in the lecture yesterday. All right, here let's assess this by putting this into practice. Okay, next, academic prompts. Okay, so maybe a group discussion or a writing assignment. All right, we give you an open ended question. All right, now please write on it. Okay, tell me about this process that we just talked about. Number three, quiz and test items. Many of us are familiar with this. Okay, many of us have taken quiz after quiz and test after test, which can include true and false questions, multiple choice, and maybe some discussion questions. Okay, and finally, informal checks for understanding. Okay, this can include a group question. Okay, today, uh, can you please repeat what we just discussed today? All right, name me one part of the cell. Okay, or another thing, can you please tell us what is one step of photosynthesis? Okay, one that I'm hearing discussed a lot is uh, exit tickets. At the end of the class, you must give us an exit ticket before you leave. Okay, answer this brief question, so on, so that we know. Do we need to repeat this lesson or explain it in a different way? How far did do they understand? This can be a way of calling it a formative assessment. Okay, so before we give them that quiz and test item, we might want to informally check for understanding. I know that some schools they require a check for understanding for every objective that they have on their lesson plan, which is a great idea. So we want to know, do they fully understand every objective that I put on there? Do they somewhat, or how far in detail? Okay. If they only understand two objectives out of those three that I gave today, okay, only I may need to repeat that one objective. Okay, the six facets. So, number one, explanation. So, this number one, we need to talk about the six facet or the blueprint of an assignment. So when we plan this, all right, we need to be able to we need to understand. All right, the explanation we want to have them explain it to us in that assessment. All right, do our students, are they able to interpret this what I give them on the assessment? Okay, so if we give them a word problem, are they able to interpret that? Okay, were they able to interpret our lecture number one to be able to apply it on the assessment? Number three, excuse me, application. So again, I'm going to talk about math problems. Okay, so they we taught all those formulas to the students. Now, if we give them a word problem or something like that, are they able to apply it to a real world setting? Okay. Again, many of our theories we've talked about last few weeks have talked about applying it in a real world setting. So, if I've taught students about measuring skills, okay, in an ag mechanics class, and I give them a real world setting, okay, can they apply it? That's truly a thing that I always like to teach in my classes. Okay, perspective. Okay, how how can our students? What context do they take? What do they perceive from our lectures or our lessons? Okay. Uh, Next, all right, empathy. Okay, so are our students, how are they, number one, we just talked about perceived, so are they showing any empathy to the content or the context that we're in? Okay, and self knowledge. Okay, maybe we need to have some kind of self evaluation so that we can receive feedback on that assessment. Was that good? Was that a bad? I know in a lot of college courses, our professors ask us to give them an end of the course evaluation. So maybe next year, if this did not work, okay, was there something wrong with the way I delivered the content? How can I do it differently? Okay, next, now putting this all together, uh, digital applications. So here are some ways that we can use technology, integrate technology with assessment. Here are a couple of programs that I saw that I think are easy. Many of us are aware of Google Forms, okay? So that's a brief survey. We can use multiple choice, true, false, open ended discussion questions. Okay. And then the teacher can go from there and view, they can say, all right, were they correct? How many of our students were correct? Okay. Quizlet. Okay. A lot of us, some of us might be familiar with Quizlets. I remember trying to find the free flashcards and studying for some assignments on that. Kahoot. Uh, I used this in class a lot when I was a teacher, where we would use it as a formative assessment or a review game. All right, and it was a game to see, all right, which student answers it the quickest. All right, who has the most correct answers? They win points at the win a prize at the end of the game. Uh, Puzzle, okay, it's putting it all together. Quizzes, okay, I've heard of a lot of people using quizzes. It's pre-made quizzes that you can find some that are already pre-made, or you can create your own to fit your content area. uh, Qualtrics, many of us associate Qualtrics with a survey or a research system. However, when I got to college, I realized people are using it as an assessment as well. So I like that. I found that interesting. Okay. And finally, one that I'm going to talk about in more detail in a minute is Nearpod. So we're able to use formative and summative assessments using this. So my real world scenario today is talking about Nearpod. Last week, I introduced that my situation or the course that I was planning was going to be one for the fall of 2025 for agricultural leadership students. and applying performance-based or uh, professional skills class. Okay. So, Nearpod is an application that offers a variety of ways to deliver lessons and assessments. Okay. So, uh, we were able to using Nearpod. It number one, you can upload a PowerPoint and upload and put games into it, so students can watch it. You can perform a live presentation, or you can have a student paced. All right, so students can do it at their own pace, or you can choose to let them do it as, let's say I recorded a video and it took 30 minutes, they had to do it, they have it in 30 minutes, or I can choose to let them take it at their own pace. So that can work. That has its pros and its cons, but we also have to remember that every student learns at a different pace, and so that might help them at the end of the day. Next, okay, I took a screenshot, and this is this shows the different forms of assessment that it shows that the students can use. Okay, number one, the quizzes in the game. So many of us know quiz in a game that can be a formative or summative assessment. We can put that at the end of the PowerPoint. Drawing. So if we want our students to do a drawing, how are you perceiving this? That may be a good thing. Or if we were teaching them a biology class and we said, all right, so draw what the cell looks like, and that could be something interesting or interactive for our students to do. All right, fill in the blank. So if we just went over a slide and we wanted to have our students repeat that phrase, that would be a good one. And time to climb, that's an interesting one. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So, another one that I saw were discussions that they have. Okay, so a formative interactive assessment that I wanted to include in mine was a matching cards. So, there's a process that we include that we want our students to develop their career goals. And so it has 7 steps, and right after the slide that we had, I want them to be able to match each step or assess how they are doing that. And I thought this was a fun game that they can do. So here's a brief screenshot of that, and they have to choose one and the other, pair them up. Okay, a timed writing assignment. So one thing that we're going to have our students do in this lesson is we want them to create their personal statement. So we can put it on a timer, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, so on. And I just want to see, all right, what is there? How are they interpreting what we are doing? And can they create their own personal statement? And then we can review it and see, all right, how do they interpret what a personal statement is? Number one, are they even paying attention to this PowerPoint that I've given them? So I thought this would be creative to just rather than going through a PowerPoint, we want them to complete these tasks before this lecture is complete. Okay, other types of assessments that are available, I just went over that. Quizzes, fill in the blank, time to climb game. So last week we talked about lower and higher order level of thinking with Bloom's taxonomy. We're able to you can set this up as a game, give them a series of questions, and they slowly climb the ladder on the questions. Number 4, drawings. I explained that a minute ago. 5, finally, collaborative discussion. Similar to what we do in this course is discussion posts. We can implement that into that course as well through Nearpod. Okay, so just a brief conclusion about what we've talked about today. We talked about the frameworks and general rules of learning assessments. Please remember we have formative and summative assessments. There are 6 different facets to a blueprint of learning assessments that we must think about when we are designing our learning assessment. What goals do we have? Okay, number 2. We talked about digital applications to form assessments. So we talked about Google Forms, we talked about Nearpod, we talked about Kahoot, and there are a lot, 30 or 40 available ones on the internet that we need to look into. All right, and finally, we talked about my real world application I'm using Nearpod. Okay, so Here are my references. Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback, please let me know. Uh, I love talking to y'all. Have a good week.